YouTube. This is a day I didn't necessarily think would ever come, but hello. The plan is, as I am out for a stroll, get a few steps, the plan is to obviously post a bit of long form content, and that day has finally come. I didn't necessarily think I would ever be doing this, but the fact that I've been delaying it for so long, been apprehensive about doing it, is telling me enough that I definitely need to start fucking doing it. So here we are. The aim of using the camera that I'm currently speaking on is to get some content obviously out on YouTube, like I'm saying. How often, I'm not going to make any guarantees, but the content probably more some of the day-to-day bits, the day-to-day running of business behind the scenes. I want to speak a bit more, so show some client journeys from a different lens, but also want to use it to post some client videos, some educational stuff, on the website, and use the camera for that front as well. So we've got a bit of plans with it anyway. We can see how it goes. The main thing on here was to try and speak for 5 to 10 minutes without doing it twice. The short form content, going back a couple of years ago, 30 to 60 second clips, was something that still I wouldn't necessarily say I love, but you can record it as many times as you want. You can cancel, you can start again, up until you make the right video, and see how that goes. How's things? So yeah, you can do as many takes as you want pretty much, but my aim with this is just let it be a wee bit more raw, be a bit more vulnerable, let it be shit, post it anyway and see where it goes. But the main topic of this video is to speak a little bit more on why this whole thing ever started, and the root of that, and how that's changed down through the years as well. So the why is something that I have mentioned on Instagram before, presuming that you follow me and you see me through there. How's things? So I posted that on some carousels or some photos and with some text over it. So maybe you've seen that before, and if you know me personally, you probably know where that's all started from. But yeah, I never spoke about it in long form content. So yeah, that was going back to the very start. I suppose I was always passionate about the gym, 17, 18, 19. Probably had a fair idea what I wanted to do, but a bit of confusion, bit of apprehension, fear. Hello. Probably delayed me ever tapping into it, and eventually went down the route of working a year in recruitment that was definitely not terrible, but I probably knew from the start that it wasn't something I was going to do long term. And as that was continually going on, I eventually found myself actually researching fucking some personal training courses whilst working there, and that was probably the stage where, yeah, I had a fair idea this wasn't going to go on much longer. So yeah, that eventually changed. Went to Belfast on a course there for 3 to 4 months in November 2020 maybe. Unbelievable experience, completely changed my life. Had a fair idea, as I said, that that's what I wanted to go down, but that was the clarity that I needed. And since then, been self-employed, and I'd be the first person to play down what I'm doing and how interesting it all is. But going back to the purpose of these videos, if I was 22, 23, watching somebody who's self-employed based in Western Australia, I would think that's pretty fucking cool. So I need to stop playing it down a wee bit and just post a little bit more around that. And I guess it's my job to make sure that content isn't shit. So we'll see how that goes. But that was probably where the whole thing ever started. And then in terms of the why, I feel like I kind of break it into two. The business why is that reason there, that massive shift and change in life that I had. It's something that I try and bring into practice with all the clients that I work with who are trying to make physical changes. I relate it back to where that all happened for me. bring that into the day-to-day working, like, and try and resonate with it. The people who are trying to make massive physical shifts in their life, I bring it back to that feeling of change as a whole. So that's probably the business why, as I say. But being self-employed for over 5 years now, it brings its challenges, and then no bigger challenge than just over 3.5 years ago, when my father died to suicide in December 2022. All of a sudden, everything changes out of the blue, and it's something that I've never spoken about on here before, something that you never fully come to terms with. You eventually, I suppose, just try and navigate your day to day. And that space is something that I do think I have a lot to offer eventually. When that might be, I'm not quite sure, but I do think I have a lot to offer that mental health space, or maybe that suicide space, and the impacts of that, and speaking to people in time. But when that might be, haven't a clue. Will not make any promises on that. But staying on the topic of why, that business why I mentioned, and all of a sudden your personal why changes massively as well. So I suppose what that might be for me, or how I've always tried to look at that, well, I wouldn't say always, but since that event occurred in my life, my outlook on it, as I say, not necessarily from the start, but when you eventually get to that place of looking forward, how I've tried to deal with it is that I want Evan, and I don't even know if this is going to make sense, but Evan of 5 years, Evan of 10 years, Evan of 15 years, etc., having the ability to look back and say that I done everything that I could. Like, I was as positive as I could have been. I tried to get after things as much as I could have done. I never ever used it as something that was an excuse, which might not be the right word, but and whilst I do that, obviously having my days or spells, weeks, whatever it might be, where emotions are too high and I just let things go, but it's something that does drive me on, and whether I should or shouldn't look at it that way, I'm not quite sure. But the reality for me is that I'd like to think the hardest thing I'll ever go through in life, and if I try and use it in some sort of way that drives me on the day to day with a bit of a purpose, where I try and make me of the future proud, but also family, and try and push on in life and everything else, then I guess that's as good of an outlook as you can have, if that even makes sense. But that's the way I try and go about it, and it's not straightforward, but it's how I try and use it sometimes anyway, or as much as I can do. So staying on the topic of why, that is the personal why. The business why being that topic around change, and how that big change in my career sparked this whole thing, and I still use that on the day-to-day as well. Then, yeah, that's pretty much everything. I just kind of wanted to jump on, speak for the guts of 8 to 10 minutes, a bit about where this whole thing started, and I don't think I've ever spoken about it quite long term, so yeah. And where this is going to go, not quite sure. Like I mentioned there, I probably play this down an awful lot, but being self-employed in Western Australia and having absolutely no idea what this whole thing was going to entail, want to try and show a little bit more around over here as well, and that it's not always fucking sunny. So yeah, it's up to me to make sure that content's not shit, and we can see where it goes. So if you've made it to this point, appreciate you listening. When the next one will be, no promises, but we'll see.